Hey, thanks so much for joining us today for this live demonstration. My name is Greg Lewis. I'm the marketing director for MetaStock, and this is a live webinar. And today's guest speaker is our very own Jeff Gibby. If you've been around long, you absolutely know who Jeff Gibby is. He's been with the company for about 1,000 years, and he's done thousands of these presentations. It's because he's really good at it. People enjoy him. And today the topic is especially special because we're talking about MetaStock 19. MetaStock 19 is our latest, greatest version of MetaStock, and we know you're going to love it. If you haven't yet had a chance to see it, make sure to stick around. Jeff's going to tell you everything there is to know. There's new workflow, there's new layouts, there's new systems, there's new drawing tools, there's new screens, there's new themes. It's just a great product. In fact, my boss and I were looking at 18 earlier today, and we're like, wow, this is so much better than that, because we haven't been using 18 for a while because we've had the pre-production version of 19. So anyway, do stick around. Couple things I wanted to talk to you about. One, do like and subscribe. I always like pushing this button to make that pop up. There you go. Like and subscribe. I mean, if you like, then like. And if you want to subscribe, then click that bell and you'll be notified every week that we have a live event like this. We have live events like this about once a week. Then quarterly, we have multi-day events called conferences that are 5 or 6 days long, all day long. They're a great thing. You wouldn't want to miss it. And then monthly, we have what's called the Summit, which is one all-day event. It's 8 hours long. And again, you wouldn't want to miss it. Again, my name is Greg. We'll be starting here in about 4 minutes and 50 seconds. I'm coming at you from the great state of Texas, down in McAllen, Texas, and Jeff will be coming at you from his home in just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. I can't remember the name of the city Jeff actually lives in. Anyway, it's in Salt Lake area. And what else was I going to tell you? Oh, yeah. So we have a MetaStock 19 live and in-person tour. So we'll be coming around. Let me show you this. We'll be coming around to a lot of cities in the US and Canada. So if you go to metastock.com/seminar, I've already got it pinned at the top of this conversation in YouTube, then you'll be able to, let me check something real quick before I go on. Yeah. Then you'll be able to register for that event and come hang out with one of us for a couple hours. This weekend is Vancouver and Atlanta and Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and San Francisco. I will be in Vancouver and San Francisco. Dave Derricott will be in the other two places I said. Now, if you did already register for Vancouver, you might notice that Scott Brown was supposed to attend, but he couldn't make it, so I'm pinch hitting. Scott's a fantastic speaker. He's the president of the company, or I should say the owner of the company, but I'm no slouch. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about, so make sure you register now for those events. Okay, we'll be starting this event in about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Let me get back here. Anything else I was going to tell you? Oh, hey, you know what? This is a great opportunity at these live events for you to ask lots of questions. Jeff is particularly good at and responsive to questions, and he will be monitoring both the GoToWebinar as well as the YouTube question chat boxes. And so if you have a question, do go ahead and make sure to ask. We have 2 minutes and 50 seconds to go. Now, normally at this time, I would show you a video about MetaStock, but there's not enough time to do that now because we're within 3 minutes. If there's anything else I can think of to tell you. Oh, yes. We do have webinars like this discussing MetaStock 19. If you aren't able to stay for this whole webinar, do know that it is recorded. And if you just want to listen to another person talk about MetaStock 19, I suppose you could come to a later webinar. Dave Derricott will be doing webinars. Al Lakey will be doing webinars. Kelly Clement will be doing more webinars. And Bobby Hiller will be doing more webinars. So if you're interested in that, go to metastock.com/webinar and check that schedule out. We'll be starting here in about 2 minutes. What else was I going to tell you? Seminars, webinars, MetaStock 19 that I mentioned. We just launched MetaStock 19. We're so excited about this product. We come out with new products about every 2 years, and of course, every time we come out with a new upgrade, we're excited about it. But this upgrade, I'm telling you, it's the best one we've ever done, and it brings the more usability features and interface features that just make your life easier. You can customize MetaStock just the way you want it and dial it right in, and you're really going to enjoy it. Okay, I think for the next minute and a half or so, I'll just let you listen to some jazzy music while I go back over to talk to Jeff to make sure he's set to go. And do remember, please, to like and subscribe. Oh, before I go away. Okay, so I see many of you here, but no one's chatting out. Chat out, say hello. Just give us a hi. We'd love for you to, we're very, very open to conversation. We take all questions and comments. We just ask that you be nice and respectful of Jeff and your co-watchers. Okay, so stick around for another 50 seconds and we'll bring Jeff on.
Thank you. All right. Hey, let's start. Let's drink some tea, actually. Peter, it's good to see you too. Thanks for coming. Vincenzo, good to see you. Neil, thanks for coming. You guys should all be able to hear me well. I hope you're doing good today. I hope you're feeling good. If you're watching this on YouTube, I hope you'll hit that like button and that subscribe. In fact, I'm going to do it right now. There we go. It does help a great deal if you have questions. I've got both the questions open. They're right here. So if you have questions, let me know as we go. My name is Jeff Gibby. I've worked at MetaStock for just 27 short years. It's been a great experience. Today, I'm going to talk about probably what's one of the biggest upgrades we've ever had. And I'm going to kind of walk you through it. I'm going to take a pace that I feel is pretty good. I'll try not to kind of make it too long. But there's a lot to talk about. And so if you do have questions as we go along, please let me know. I'm happy to answer them. And let's start with something that was sure to make the lawyers happy, our legal disclaimer. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock and the accompanying software plugins. It is not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock and its employees shall have no liability for investment decisions based on the use of the software, trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. MetaStock and its employees do not endorse the purchase of a security, nor are they paid for the promotion of a security. No information contained in this presentation should be construed as investment advice or as me soliciting you to buy a security. So actually, Vincenzo, if it's after 4, it's usually green tea in here. So right now it's green tea. But there you go. Let's go ahead and get started. As I said, it's a huge upgrade. We've been working on this one since 18 came out. And it's always funny, like we spend a couple years working on stuff and we'll get features locked in and stuff like that. And then we'll kind of release it. And it's surprising to me. I'll be like, oh yeah, we talked a lot about how this should work and how it should function. And I remember that conversation now because we spend a lot of time on stuff. So there's a lot that we kind of added into 19. There's theme support. There's improved charting workflows. There's new layouts. There's new workflows. The whole container has been redesigned. So there's a modern feel and look to it. Most of the dialog boxes have been switched out to new dialog boxes. All of the kind of toolbar buttons, everything in there, that has actually changed. There's new charting styles, new look and feel, new trading systems. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through all of this stuff. I anticipate that it's going to take a little bit of that, like maybe an hour or so. I want to encourage you, if as we go you have questions about how things work and that kind of stuff, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer. I also want to say thanks for coming. And if you use MetaStock, I want to say thank you for using MetaStock. I use it every day to find trades. I love scanning in MetaStock, and I couldn't imagine using a less powerful software. Let's say I couldn't imagine being able to not being able to scan and just find setups and find triggers and that kind of stuff. So I hope you feel the same way. And if you've been using MetaStock, I appreciate that. So anyway, let's get started. This is something that's been asked for a lot of people. For the purpose of today's demo, I'm going to leave MetaStock in the black theme, okay? Which means that you'll have kind of a black border, black icons, and that kind of stuff. And you can do white theme if you want. Particularly, I prefer the kind of the darker border, the darker theme. But now we have theme support. So a little bit of a change, something that I actually kind of immediately went to dark theme. I'm kind of curious too, before we kind of start to talk a little bit about kind of some of the charting interfaces and that kind of stuff. Do you have a preferred theme? Like if you have an option to go dark theme or white theme, what is it? Type it in the comments and in the chat. Let me know. In any case, let's talk a little bit about some of the other things. As I said a little bit earlier today, or just a second ago, minutes ago, actually, I love the ability to scan. So one of the things that they put together is a tabbed interface. So if you prefer kind of being able to window and tab your browsers, you can still do that. But a lot of the workflow that I do personally actually has to do with, like, I want to scan through a list of stocks. I want to find stocks that have an opportunity, and then I want to open those up, and if I don't like the charts or I don't want to look at them anymore, I can just close them. So let me kind of talk a little bit about how the charting workspaces work, kind of how you can kind of see things in them and kind of all that kind of good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into MetaStock here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into the path. I've got a chart open right now. I'll go ahead and close it. And you'll notice I do have it in the dark theme. So I do like the dark theme. I particularly prefer the dark theme. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up a couple of charts here. And let's just open up GE, Apple. We'll do Costco. It doesn't matter. I'm just kind of randomly selecting some stocks just so you can kind of get an idea of how the charting interface works. I think that's fine. We don't need to open up a ton of them. The idea is to kind of give you that idea. So in terms of a template, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of open up a template. And the one, let's just do, actually, we'll do the Ichimoku one. No particular reason. I do like the Ichimoku stuff. It is new. It's included in MetaStock. And but now, what I'm going to kind of talk a little bit is how the theming works, or how the tabbed interface works. Now, you will notice that all the charts are actually white. And so you can have a different chart background and a different theme if you want. If you do prefer, you can actually come in here, and there's actually some dark themes that you can use as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that for Microsoft. So what I want to kind of point out, and we'll just kind of talk about this as we go, but you'll notice that all of those charts that I've opened are now kind of up here in their own tabs. So if I want to switch tabs, I can click on GE. It's going to go ahead and jump to GE for me, Apple, Costco, and I can just kind of cycle through the tabs. And it works really, really, really well. Of course, now, if I want to kind of switch to a tab that's actually open, what I can do is I'll come in here and I can click on this little down arrow. There's a couple of different ways you can kind of go through tabs and go through charts. But I'm going to kind of walk them through kind of some of the options that are here. So obviously I have about 5 or 6. This does function a lot like your Chrome browser. And if you're like anything like me, there's a good chance you're going to have like 60 Chrome browsers open at any time. I always end up with way more Chrome browsers than I think. But if I wanted to find any particular chart, there's a couple of different ways that we can. The first one is I can click on this down arrow and it'll list all of the charts that I have open. Okay. I can also, and this is a little bit of a keyboard trick, but if I hit Control Tab, I can actually see a little bit of a preview, and I can see all the active charts. So let me go ahead and switch back into that Microsoft. Go ahead and kind of click on that, and it'll open up as the tab that's currently active. So the tabbed interface, for me, works really, really well. What I typically do is I'll run it, like I said, a scan, and I'll just open up all the charts from the scanning. And that's it. That's what I do in terms of, and then if I don't like them, let's say I didn't like this IBM chart, I just close it out. I don't pay attention to it anymore, and I just look at the ones that are there. So there are some things that you can do with tab browsing. If you just don't like tab browsing and you preferred kind of the classic style of tab browsing, you can change it. So right here in this window here, you'll see the tab browsing. If I wanted to change that to like the old windowed format, all of the options that were available in MetaStock 18 were there. So I can cascade them. I can just click on this cascade button and it'll cascade them out. I can tile them. I can stack them. I can manipulate them exactly the way that I want. So, so those are options that are all still very, very much available for you if that's what you prefer. Okay. If I do have them in a tabbed environment, I do also have the ability to kind of set workspaces and layouts, or I'm sorry, set a workspace the way that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the tabbed layout and talk a little bit about what I mean by that. Alejandro asked a question. I'm going to go ahead and read it. Is it possible to always have the default in the chart, the dark mode, instead of going to the plant icon on the bottom right side? So yes, okay. Alejandro, I'll show you how to do that. Actually, it's pretty easy to do. Typically, what you will want to do if you have a specific way you want to look at every chart and you want every chart to open up that way, what you want to do is save either the template, or you can also save it as a template. So just to show you the actual steps that you'll use, Alejandra, I'm going to go ahead. Unless I wanted to see this Ichimoku view, but I always wanted it to open up in kind of a dark mode, just choose the dark mode that you want. Make any other color changes that you want to the chart. I'm going to say that I also want to look always at candlesticks because I prefer candlesticks. So I'll go ahead and kind of double click on here, which again, you actually do this the same way you did in MetaStock 18. Like, well, one of the things that we pay particular attention to is when we make changes, we try and kind of keep the interface as similar as possible. So anyway, get it set up exactly the way that you want. I'm actually going to do the default candlesticks here. Go ahead and click on apply. Once you're happy with the view that you want, you have two options. One, you can save it as a template and then just make sure that you open with that template every time. And the way that you would do that, let me go ahead and click on OK. And go ahead and click on File. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save As right here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this down to Template. Okay. And then I can name this either Ichimoku. I can overwrite the template that I opened it with, or I can name it anything I want to. And then as long as I choose to open with that template, Alejandro, it will open exactly this way. Okay. Now, you might say, well, I don't necessarily want to choose the template. I want all of my charts to look like this. This is the way that I do my analysis, and I just don't want to have to worry about that. And that's fine. That's actually kind of, if you want to set this as what we call a default template, you can. And to do that, all you do is right click here, go to File or Save As Default Template, and you can go ahead and click on Yes, and that'll make that your default template. So every time you open up a chart, as long as you don't define a different template, it'll open up in this exact style. So I hope that helps. Thanks for the question. Let me think about where I was. Okay, yeah. What I wanted to talk about was how to kind of set up a workspace exactly the way that you want it to be. Now, one of the things with MetaStock 19 is that's very cool is it's a lot less container bound. With the versions of prior to MetaStock 18, Everything had to be right here in one window, in one container. And even if you had like 17 monitors, you could only use one. And that's changed. And we've put a lot of thought into how to change that, or how to kind of make that sensible and make that make sense. So perfect. I'm glad it helped. Okay. So if I want to, I've got 5 charts open. I just showed you how to open it. I can actually drag these around and kind of set them up exactly the way I want to do. If I just grab this Microsoft chart right here, I'm just going to go ahead and pull it. I can pull it out, and you'll notice I can float it right here. I can put this anywhere. I could go ahead and put this over here on a different monitor. You can't see it over here, but I can. I could go ahead and also kind of just hover it. It doesn't necessarily have to stay in the container like it did in 18 and earlier versions of MetaStock. It totally put it wherever you want. And with Restore Workspace, it's going to remember where you put it as long as you have Restore Workspace put on. Now, you can also kind of very much organize the views exactly the way you want. So you'll notice right here, I'm going to kind of point it out, I got some buttons that are here. I've got this one, I've got this one, I've got this one. And depending on where I put this, different things are going to light up. So I'm going to basically, and it's pretty intuitive. Like if I want, you can see what's going to happen when I drop this chart. I'm going to go ahead and drop it right here. It's going to go ahead and put Microsoft on one side, and then I've got my other tab charts right here. So pretty easy to do. I'm going to go ahead and take Costco out of here. And the same thing, I can either kind of float it where I want it to be, or I can kind of just drop it somewhere, and I can kind of see exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and put it right here, and then I kind of can break up these charts exactly the way I want them to look at. As long as I have Restore Workspace, if I go ahead and close this down and reopen it, it'll remember the positioning. And for me, the way that I think this is useful is instead of looking at like Apple or Costco, I'm going to go ahead and set this one right here. Maybe you want to look at the market indexes. Like maybe instead of Costco and Microsoft and GE and Apple, go ahead and drop that there. Maybe I have Dow, S&P, Q, Russell. Maybe that's how I want to look at it, and I can actually kind of organize it exactly like this so that it's always up in that top. Maybe that's something that you'd want to do, but I can just basically set this up exactly the way I want to. So I personally, for tabbed interface, the reason I really, really like that though, is because I love scanning in MetaStock. I love being able to open up 20, 30 charts, closing the 15 that I'm not going to be interested in, and just focusing on the ones that are. So there you go. All right, I think that's kind of it. Let me go ahead and look at my slides again and just see if I missed anything that I want to show you. And if not, we'll move on. So it works like a browser. You can pin charts. You can drag and drop charts. You have the drop down button that allows you to kind of see the charts. You can float charts outside of the container. You can put them on different windows. You can have the horizontal and vertical groups. And if you don't like tabs, you don't have to have them. You can also go back and you can have the classic tile modes where it functions like windows within windows, where you can kind of tile and more, stack and more, whatever you want to do. So the other thing that's kind of just a little bit of a dress right dress thing is we've also tried to make the MetaStock interface a lot cleaner. And I think you'll notice that as we go through. But instead of like having it say smart charts, there's an icon that just denotes that this is a smart chart or a chart or a layout instead of kind of spelling that out for you. So in a lot of different places, you'll notice as we're going through, all of the icons are brand new. They were all redrawn. All of the interfaces were kind of modernized. And we've spent a lot of time kind of thinking about how to make MetaStock look as clean as possible. So that's charting tabbed workflows. And let me know if you have any questions about that. The next thing I want to talk about is layouts and layout workflows. So there's a couple of layouts are basically, let me kind of think about how to kind of talk about this for a minute. I should have thought about how to talk about it before, right? But with layouts, they've evolved a little bit in MetaStock. We had layouts in MetaStock 18 and 17, and for the 27 years that we've had, that I've been here at MetaStock, we've had layouts. Now, they do take a much bigger role here now. And we put a lot of thought into how layouts should work. Now layouts function as their own instance of MetaStock. So I can now go in, and if I want to create a layout that's like a global market layout, I can. I can put it on a different monitor. It's going to have its own toolbars. It's going to have its own menu system, and I can easily reference that. So let me kind of come in here, and I don't know if I have any layouts created because I'm at home and I just installed MetaStock 19, and I don't know that I've necessarily created one. But if I do, if I click on this down arrow, I'm going to be able to see layouts. And I do actually have a couple. There's a broad market and a multiple time frame layout. And you can set these up. If I wanted to create a new layout, so I could show you how to create a new layout, I could just click on this little plus button right here. And what's going to happen is it's going to, at that point, start a new layout of MetaStock, or a new instance of MetaStock. And it'll label it and name it. This, in this case, is layout 2. Now, there's a couple of really good reasons to have a layout. One of them is like one of them you just saw. I like to have like a broad market view, so I can kind of get an idea of what's happening in the market. If I wanted to create that, I could just create it now. I've got this layout space open, and anything I put into this space is going to be part of this space. So the original monitor or the original workstation was main. Anything I put in this will be part of layout 2. So let me just kind of show you. I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you how to build this. I'm going to basically open up the Power Console. I'm going to go to charts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Dows, the Qs, the SPY, and the IWM, which is the Russell. These are all ETFs that track the Russells. I typically look at the ETFs instead of the indexes. You can use the indexes if you want. Again, this is just for demo purposes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and let all of those open. With me, I prefer to kind of view these all at the same time. So, and typically with a little bit of a less noisy template, but that's okay. Set it up the way that you want it, right? What I'm going to do real quickly here is I'm just going to kind of put this in a tile mode. So instead of doing the tabbed interface, I do want to be able to see what the charts are. And I do like it a little bit better in a tile mode. So I'm going to click on this tile, and that'll put everything kind of automatically arranged for me. So I've got the Dow, the Q, the SPY, and the Russell here. Okay. Now it's still called layout 2, but I could go ahead and save this. I'm going to do that. I'll show you exactly the process here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on File, Save As right here where it says layout. Perfect. That's exactly what I want it to say. I'm going to call this my itchy broad market layout view. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now instead of layout 2, it'll say itchy broad market layout view. Okay, now that I've saved it though, I actually do have pretty easy access to it. If I click on this down arrow, I could go to my other broad market template, and it'll go ahead and swap over that. And it functions a lot like the last layout that we've had. So I'm going to go ahead and move this. Keep in mind, these layouts are their own instances of MetaStock. I can have them on different screens. I can have them in different arrangements. This one has still the tabbed interface, for example. But it also allows me that easy access. If I click on this one, any of those layouts that I've created, whether it's a multiple time frame layout or the itchy broad market layout or the broad market, any of those layouts that I've actually created are going to be there for me. So some of the things that I like to look at, if you like to look at multiple time frames, like you want to maybe have your weekly, your hourly, your daily, your monthly, whatever time frames you want, you could open them all up. You could save it as a layout. You could save that as a multiple time frame view, which is what I've got here. You can use it for broad markets. If you have a portfolio that you want to keep track of all of your stocks in one place, you can have a portfolio layout. This just allows you, one, it allows you to kind of put this anywhere you want it. Two, it allows you to stay more organized. And three, it just kind of keeps everything really, really kind of nice and packaged tightly for me. So there you go. That's layout views. So with the layout workout flows, just to kind of talk about, it's not that they can function as independent windows, they will. It gives you support for multiple monitors. It's a simple process. If you want to create a layout, you just hit plus. I don't know if you remember, worked with layouts a lot in 18 and earlier, but it was really a pain in the butt. You'd have to kind of open up all the charts you want, go file new layout, add all the charts, then save the layout. We've tried to kind of streamline that whole process. And with the idea that, hey, a lot of people have multiple monitors and want to be able to look at something over here, something over here, and something over here. And it kind of supports that there. Let's see. Alejandro, I will read that in just a second, because I'm going to kind of finish this real quick, and then I'm going to read your question. Simple process for creating a savings, multiple chart views, multiple timeframes, and an easy navigation of main window and layout windows. And I do like the quick selection that they're showing there. Alejandro has another question. When you have time, could you show me how to pass my save layouts to another computer? I just installed 19 and I want to get all my 18 layouts out. Yeah, okay. Let me just talk to you a little bit about that process, because it's not hard. It would probably be better if you have a thumb drive maybe, but all of your layouts are going to be in your documents folder. So if you go to documents, let's see. Okay, if we're right here in documents, they're right here in MetaStock, right here. And right here, those are going to be where all of your layouts are. Put them on a thumb drive, move them to your other computer. You put them in Documents MetaStock. That's easy. So if you need help with that, or you need some more detailed instructions, feel free to email me. Here's my email. Okay. Cool. All right. Next, restore workspace. This one's simple. We're not going to spend any time on this at all. If you have 15 monitors and each of them have their own MetaStock layouts on and they're open in different windows, if you turn on Restore Workspace, it'll allow you to restore all of your computers all at the same time. So there you go. Easy. Easier for searching. So one of the things that I just kind of really like is how easier the MetaStock keeps getting incrementally to find the stuff that you want. Like they've added search to scanners, they've added search to systems, they've added search to just about anything that you want to find, and it just makes it so much easier to find that scan or that function that you want. And we've now added that to the indicator quick list. So we've also made it a little bit easier to use. One of my actual pet peeves with MetaStock was the indicator quick list, because you'd have all the built-in functions at the top, and then you'd have any functions that you made or installed below that. And so everybody that had MetaStock would have a list that went A to Z, and then they'd have a list that started at A again and went to Z again, and it just didn't make a lot of sense. So we did away with that. And now it's just one alphabetical list, just a two alphabetical list. But they also made it a lot easier to find. So from that perspective, like if I'm going into the indicator quick list and I want to find a MACD indicator, for example, I can now come in here, then go ahead and go back into MetaStock. Okay, if I'm in the indicator quick list right here, I click on the down, and I'm looking for something specific, but I'm not sure how it starts. Maybe I just want to have something that's a MACD, but I don't remember exactly the MACD. I can search for this. I can actually come in here and go MACD, and anything that lists MACD is going to kind of come in and be listed. So if I'm looking at the triple exponential moving average, it's right here. I'm looking at MACD. Maybe I want the MACD histogram, which is something that I had them add to 18. All of these are found. So anything that you're looking for, it's just now easier to find. And it's more intuitive. It's not going to be two lists, and you have to remember which one it's on. Everything's just there, and you can scan it and search it. So I love it when we do like these little quality of life updates, because I myself use MetaStock a lot. And for me, being able to find the indicators that I want, or the scans that I want, or the tests that I want, or the experts that I want, just makes it so much easier to use the program. So in any case, if you do indicator, I'm not going to show this in MetaStock, but I'll talk about it. This will be helpful for me. I'm going to set this to you real quick, though. So I've redone all of the indicator dialog boxes. You'll notice, you can look at the example that's kind of animated. Kelly did a great job with these presentations. They're all animated, and you can kind of see what they're doing. But you'll notice like that it's color coded. The 100 is a different color than the operators. There's a formula line number. So right here it says 1. And if you start a new line, it'll say 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's easier to read. It's easier to code because it does help you kind of understand exactly where things are. And if there's an issue with your formulas, I don't know, you probably code perfectly. But for me, when I have an issue, I love the fact that it says there's a problem on line, and it'll say there's a problem on line 7. And so then I can kind of go in and look at line 7 to kind of look there. So if you do any type of coding, you'll notice that this indicator, the indicator builder is new, but also a lot of the other indicators, like almost all of the dialog boxes in MetaStock have been updated and changed. So that's enough of that, though. So in terms of toolbar changes, as I said, we had kind of gone through and changed all of the toolbars. So all of the icons are new. All of them kind of look fresh. I think they look really, really good to me. But we do also have the ability to kind of go in, turn on larger. If you go into the options for the toolbars, you can make them larger. So if you're doing work on a touchpad, that's helpful if you have bigger buttons, so you can kind of push them. Or if you're like me and you're blind in this eye and can't see out of this eye, well, then this might be really helpful for you to be able to have a little bit bigger buttons, right? And so that persists across all of them. If you make the buttons a little bit bigger, they'll be bigger on all of your containers. It just allows you to identify them easier. So there you go. And if you're working on a tablet, you do want bigger buttons. And so there you go. Ray says, are you using default templates? If you can, if so, can you list the template names? So right now, the only template I've actually applied is the Ichimoku one, which comes in 18. But Ray, if I start to apply other templates, I'll make sure to mention which ones I'm using. If I don't, hold me to that. Okay, but the only one I've used so far is just this Ichimoku one. And in this case, in a couple cases, I changed it to a black background. So, and this one is built into MetaStock 19. We'll talk a little bit about Ichimoku, but like there's a really, really cool add-on that's included with 19. So I will try and remember if I use different templates as we go. I'll try and tell you exactly which ones they are. Do you like how non-committal that is? I'll try. All right. All right. There we go. You can search expert advisors now. So if, same thing, if you're in the expert advisor, you want to attach one that says MACD or Ichimoku or anything like that, you can now search. It'll pull up. It starts with, ends with, it contains type of a search. So as long as it has candlesticks in it, it's going to help you find it. So expert commentary. This is cool enough that I'm going to actually show it to you. So I really like kind of the changes that they made to the commentary, the expert advisor, kind of how it works. If you've had any experience with it in some of the older versions of MetaStock, I hope you appreciate how much more intuitive it is than it was before. So let me kind of go in here. And I think what I'm going to do is actually just switch this. Actually, yeah, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this to a tile view, or not to a non-tile view, and just kind of, what I want to do is actually make one of these charts full screen so I can kind of play with this a little bit more. And let me just close out this chart. And what I'm going to do is kind of just drag this down too. So what I want is actually just a full screen view. Okay. All right, close enough. Cool. That wasn't too hard, was it? All right. With the expert advisor, obviously we've got since I use the Ichimoku expert here, what I've got is the Ichimoku expert advisor. But what I'm going to do now is just kind of talk a little bit about the commentary. If you're not familiar with MetaStock, the the expert advisor commentary kind of helps you explain what's happening on a chart. And depending on what you've actually got listed on the chart, it's going to kind of depend on kind of the information that you get. So right now we're doing the Ichimoku, the expert advisor that I've got attached is the Ichimoku expert advisor. And if I wanted to kind of understand a little bit more about the Ichimoku method, and this is one of the things that's included in 19, then I can go into what we call an expert advisor commentary. So if I come up here, I'm going to go ahead and click on view, and I'm going to open up our expert commentary. It's actually already open. Let me go ahead and do it again. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull this window out real quick. So this, in MetaStock, you could put this expert advisor window over onto the side. You could put it on the top or the bottom, or you could float it. And right now I've got it in a floated designation, right? So in this particular case, since we're looking at the Ichimoku expert advisor, it's going to talk about the Ichimoku. And I can come down here and it kind of gives me the orientation of the different bands. And I'm not going to read this because it's in MetaStock, but it's really, really cool. But it's a little bit beyond kind of the point of this demo. If I want to dock this, in MetaStock 18 and all of the versions of MetaStock have the ability to dock this. But it would get a little bit tricky sometimes. Like a lot of times I'd be kind of trying to dock it over to like one side, and instead it would go up to the top or up to the bottom. But now, just like you see before, I do have kind of these interface controls where I can kind of set it to half of the screen like we did with the charts before. Or I want you to notice over here in the corner, there's the ability to kind of make it docked right here. I'm going to do this first. I'm going to go ahead and dock it. And it is set to a really big width right now, actually, kind of a ridiculously large one. I'm going to go ahead and close that down a little bit and just show you how easy that is to resize. And so right here, I can kind of come through. I can read all about what's going on with the Ichimoku, kind of what the orientations are, whether it's bullish, bearish, and I can learn all kinds of stuff about that. And that's great. What's a lot easier is kind of determining where this is going to go. A lot of times, if you're playing with talking like the old 18, a lot of times you'd end up with it in the wrong place. It'd be at the top or the bottom, and you have to pull it out and kind of resize it and stuff like that. And because I kind of just can see where it's going, I can make it go here. I can make it go to the top. I can go and make it go to the side. But it's very, very obvious before I drop this where it's going to go. And it wasn't that way in 18. Okay, but something even better, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to point out right here, there's two different parts. So there's this one, that's a normal dock mode. That's the way you're kind of used to seeing it. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this other smaller window right here that's right next to it. And what this is going to do is instead of docking it, it's going to kind of, I can't remember the terminology that we use for this, but it is in my slides. I'm going to cheat real quick. Fly out. We use the word fly out mode. And what that means, you'll see right here, there's a commentary. Right now, I can look at anything on the chart. The full chart's available for me to view. But if I want to see what that commentary is, I can go ahead and hover over this with my mouse, and it will fly out. Okay. If I want to kind of just leave this commentary in place for a minute, I can go ahead and click on it. That'll make it stay there. And then I can kind of just still manipulate the chart until I am ready to kind of make it go away. In which case, I can do that. Okay. The other thing I can do with that, I really do like the flyout mode. I can also do that with the data window. So they've made some changes to the data window as well. And right here, this is the data window. I've got it in flyout mode. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. You know, I want you to notice that it actually matches the chart background. So if you're looking at a white chart, you'll have a white data window. If you're looking at a black chart, you'll have a black data window. It's just going to match the chart scene. But I can put this in into a tile mode, or I'm sorry, flyout mode. I can also put it in a normal dock rotation as well if I want to. So very, very cool. Love the flyout mode. I use it in my own MetaStock because a lot of times you just want to say, okay, well, what is the value of this indicator, right? And then once you've kind of figured out where the value is, and maybe you're looking at it for the relationship to the close, once you're done with that, you can kind of just click off of it, and that real estate is available for you to look at something else right now. So there you go. All right, cool. And that we call the flyout mode. Okay. And that's the same with now the expert advisor, the commentary, and the data window as well. Okay, we made some changes to Quote Center for the purpose of time. I'm going to talk about them and not necessarily open them up. But with Quote Center, we've kind of went through. It's been rethemed. It's been reworked as well. It's a new container. You can use. It has a little bit of an accordion flyout, and we've made some enhancements to this gainer. So there's a spire that sits at the top. For Option Scope looks way nicer to me, but it's just got some improved theming. It follows the both of these follow the theming of the overall chart, and they have new controls, and most everything has been modernized in MetaStock. Almost there's a couple of dialog boxes like in the system tester, for example, that haven't been updated, but almost all of the dialog boxes have been reworked at this point. And I think you'll notice as you kind of start to play with it that it has a much more modern look and feel. So that's part of that as well. So they've also changed the Power Console. They've kind of improved the visuals so that it's more readable. They've made new arrows that kind of make it more evident that you're expanding and contracting. The search functionality is now brought to focus. If you go to the open dialog box in, this is a workflow I do all the time. If I come in here to MetaStock, I click on I want to open up a chart, right? If I click on this, I can go to chart. You'll notice it does look quite a bit nicer. Everything's been reskinned in here. But if I just want to open up a chart, if I come from like this, and I click on the chart menu from any place else, it's going to default to where it's in the instrument search box. Because a lot of times when you're looking up for a chart, you just want to type in a symbol and go. And so now let's go ahead and type in a symbol and go. It just makes it that much easier. Okay. The Power Console will use the same theme that you've got. So it's dark for me because I've got it set to dark theme. And typing, also, this is actually funny. Somebody asked for me to do this very thing about a month ago. But again, if we come in here, and if I wanted to find that Ichimoku thing, or I wanted to find a different thing, I actually, let's say we wanted to find a different template, I can actually search in here, and I can search on the fly, and it will actually kind of help highlight and go to the ends, and a little thing, but it makes it so much easier to use MetaStock. So that's new as well. Custom toolbar is there. We've made it a little bit easier. I like to use the custom toolbar quite a bit. In fact, I'm going to actually show this just in case you don't know how to do this, because I think it might be something that you like. So I'm going to come in here, and let's say that I use a template all the time. It might be this Ichimoku master template, or it might be something else, but I want to be able to have easy access to it. And of course, like if I wanted to switch to a different template right now, I could just right-click on here. I could go to apply template. I could pick the template, and that's not that hard. You can do that. Now, if I wanted to actually kind of make it even easier, though, because I'm looking at this template a lot, I can. What I'm going to do, this is right here, our custom toolbar. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click here. And while I'm kind of looking at this, I want to kind of point out that I can turn off the toolbars. I can also, any of these toolbars that I don't want, I can just turn off, right? If there's buttons that I don't use, I can just turn those off too. So it's very, very customizable. But we've always had a custom toolbar, and we just made it a little bit easier to use. Custom toolbar properties. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And right here, that's this little row of buttons here. And you notice I've got the binary pro mode as the thing. Now, if I wanted to use a different template that's very, very easy and available to me, I can make it available. I can just make a button here. In fact, these buttons aren't necessarily limited to templates. You can also assign them to layouts. You can also assign them to other programs, like maybe you want it to launch Excel, or maybe you want it to open up an internet browser and go to your broker. That doesn't matter. But like, it's very, very easy to kind of go in and customize this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this button right here, this brand new button that says new. I'm going to make a new resource here. Okay. And what I'm going to do, we'll make it this chart. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of point it to something on my chart. Now, I've already just said to Alejandro's question, where are the templates stored? They're in documents. So I'm going to go ahead and browse to documents and MetaStock, which is where we're pointed at right now. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I've got all the templates loaded, and I'm just going to come in here. And which one should I use? We'll do JBXC. It's a really cool indicator that's brand new to this one too. So I'm going to come down here. There's a template that's called JBXC. Actually, side note, we are going to do a training class on the new JBXC indicator tomorrow. Jake Bernstein and Brian Lotta are going to come do it with us. But I'm going to go ahead and grab this one, okay? And this is the template that I'm going to point it to, the JBXC expansion contraction template. Same time, 6 o'clock p.m. if you want to come. So there you go. Let's see. I see 2 questions in there. I'm going to answer them in just a second. Let me finish this. Let me go ahead and click on open. Okay. So now I've got a shortcut item. I've got this icon selected, and I've got a screen trip. Those are all fine. I'm going to go ahead and leave that. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. I'm going to go ahead and move that to the top. Okay. Go ahead and click on OK. And there it is. Now, if I want to apply that template, I can just click on that button, and that template will apply. There we go. Easy. Let's see, Marinus in the Power Console, it would be great to give the ticker symbol with the O and K extension if applicable without the instrument search. Marinus, I have a little bit of a suggestion for you. And I'm going to kind of point you in the right direction, because one of the things that I would recommend that you do is actually tell MetaStock exactly what exchanges you're interested in, because it'll make it easier to find those symbols. So this is for you, but everybody that's listening, you can kind of take this as well. We're going to make a video that's going to be called the first things you should do in MetaStock. And this should be number 1, in my humble opinion. Come into the Power Console, okay? And you find this public online data list. Right now, I've got 326,000 listed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on this and go to Manage Public Lists. Okay, boom. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and just add the markets that I'm interested in. Instead of having all of the markets that I'm not interested in, that I don't want to see on a daily basis. And there's a lot. It's actually a really big benefit. And I'm sure a lot of you are here from a different country, and you might be interested in some of these markets. For me, when I'm doing analysis, I'm primarily interested in the US markets. And this you can set and kind of forget about. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come down to where it says Equities North America. And I'm going to come and I'm going to take this whole list right here. And I'm going to go ahead and just add just the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, the AMEX, the pink sheets, the ETFs, the mutual funds, and the optionals to this side of the thing. And then I'm going to come down here. I'll put a little bit of a spacer down there. I just want to give you an idea of how this works. It's pretty easy to do, and it does make it way easier to find the symbols that you're actually interested in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down, and then I do want to grab a couple index constituents lists. I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to grab the Dow 30, the S&Ps, and the NASDAQs. Okay. I like these in there because I like to scan on them. But I'll also grab the S&P 500. I'll actually grab all these S&Ps. So pick the instruments that you want. You could add in this. You might want to add some futures markets or currency markets or stuff like that. But if there's a lot of stuff that you probably aren't interested in. And this allows you that when you're running scanning or when you're switching symbols to more easily find the stocks that you're interested in. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. Okay. It's now saved successfully. I'm going to go ahead and close out of here. Now, instead of that 326,000 instruments, I've got 70,000, which is still a big number, but it does make a huge difference because right now I'm looking at Tesla. If I wanted to look at Apple instead, this will be faster, and it's not going to give me all of like the French version of Apple. It'll just give me the one that's here in the US. Or if I'm looking for Tesla, I just have the options that are here in the US. So I'd recommend you do that. It just makes things a lot snappier because you're dealing with a much smaller database. And a lot of those symbols you may not be interested in. If you do if you've done this and you actually do want to look at one of those symbols and you open up the symbol, it will still pull the data. But for the most part, this is a great way. And you still have the lists that you want. You just don't have a lot of the lists you don't want. So try that. I hope that's helpful for you. To us a little bit. I hope I didn't bore everybody with that either. So Alejandro says, I'm colorblind. How do I change the colors? For example, inside the range of the Ichimoku, inside the contraction, etc., etc. So Alejandro, you can change the colors to anything. The interface for that didn't change. And it's always been the same. And it's always been very, very sensible to me. If I want to change the color of anything on the chart, I point to it. So, like, for example, like, let's say we're going to say this is green and red. And these are bar charts. If I just double click on that, it'll open up a properties dialog box, and I can change this. If I wanted to go something that's a little bit more friendly to color blindness, I could say, well, instead of green and red, let's go black and white. So I can go ahead and pick different colors here. I'll go light orange since it's a white background. Actually, probably shouldn't do light orange. That might be harder to see, but you get the idea. We'll go ahead and do black and blue. I'll go ahead and apply. And now you can just set that. If you want to change the color of a particular plot, just double click on it. It'll come up here. You can change the color. Very, very easy. So there you go. I hope it's helpful, Marinus. Try it out. That's literally one of the things that we're going to work on once the dust settles on the upgrade, which we've been very busy, is we are going to record the first 10 things you should do in MetaStock. That's Greg's idea. And I think it's a good idea. And that's going to be one of the things that you should do. I do it on mine. So, and then if I'm doing a international demo, I just go ahead and take the list out and kind of load in the master list. So no problem, Alejandro. Thanks for the questions. If you guys have questions, make sure to ask. Okay, let's go back in over here. We talked about the custom toolbar. I wasn't going to show it to you, but like, well, whatever. Okay, view open windows. I already talked about this, but I think it's super cool. If I'm in MetaStock and I hit Control Tab, Alt Tab will switch between like windows, right? A lot of people don't use Control Tab, but it allows you to switch between open applications. Like if you're in Excel, it allows you to switch between open sheets. What I'm going to do here is Control Tab, and that just basically allows you to see and jump to any chart that you want. And we did add a little bit of, you can see the chart before you open it. So there you go. All right. Sorting in the Explorer. This is kind of cool. You can actually now sort in the Explorer, where you could sort before, but you can actually run a scan. Like one of the scans I like to run, maybe U22 is the Vora Victory one with the slope calculation. If I run that scan and I sort based on the slope, so the ones that have the most slope to the ones that have the least slope, if I then open up a chart, it's going to remember that sort order. So I'll be looking at them from the most slope to the least slope, which is really, really cool. So the other things that we've done with the scanner, they've made everything kind of a lot cleaner, I think, and they've changed everything to icons. If you want to open up a chart, you just click on the chart icon and it opens it up. It has a lot less text. It's a much cleaner interface. So, and then we've improved the search box. I love the ability to actually say, this is the scan I want. And so there you go. I love that previous next security though, because if you're ranking something and you're, like for example, maybe you're not using this one, maybe you're just using something that's sorting stuff based on overbought, oversold. You'd be looking at it from the most overbought to the most oversold. So before, you'd just be kind of looking at them in a random order. And now you can say, well, these are the ones I want to look at first. So it's very cool. All right, other things that they've done, most recently used. If I click on this down arrow, or even this down arrow here, it's going to keep track of, you'll see that it's got the Ichi broad market layout view, the broad market, but under that, it's got some other layouts that may not be open. And so it's going to keep track of those. And so that way, if there's layouts that I look at all the time, I just don't have to happen to have them open, I can switch to them really quickly. So very nice there. There's also the down arrow on the file menu. There's the down arrow on the tab charts. It's really, really easy to kind of go in. There's a bunch of different ways to find those charts that you've got to open and switch to them. I find in Chrome all the time, I'm like, where's that tab? I told you earlier, I have 64 of them open at any given time, right? So I'll click on that down arrow, and it just shows me all the tabs that are open, and I just go to the tab that I want. Same thing in MetaStock now. Custom list editor. Actually, I just showed you this a little bit. They made some changes to this. I just showed you the public list editor. But they made it a little bit easier to read, a little bit easier to navigate. And then they did add a couple new chart themes. I'll show you those again. Right now we've got the dark theme. And if I wanted something that matches that dark theme, I can change it to MetaStock Dark. You still have all the other themes that you had before, but I can go to MetaStock Dark, and it should match the color and the display of the rest of things. So they added that for there as well. All right. Okay. All right, we're kind of getting out of some of the UI stuff. Wow, it's 5 o'clock almost. All right, well, we're going to go a little bit over. And if you need to leave, there will be a recording. If you have questions, I'll just go as long as we need to. But we're going to start to talk a little bit about some of the new indicators and how they work. Volume by price is the first one. It's a very, very popular indicator. And I'll show you how to plot it. So I'm going to go ahead and come in here. I'm going to go ahead and type in volume by price. And look, I can just go right to it. I don't have to go to the second list of these or anything like that. It's just there. I can search for it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and plot this. This functions essentially the way you put it on a chart is like any other indicator. So I'm going to drag it, and I'm going to drop it right there. Okay, when I drop it, it's going to have some display properties that I can kind of walk you through real quick. Volume by price, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide up the zone into different regions. And then based on the volume that happened at those regions, it's going to drop bars on the chart for me. So in this case, I'm going to actually write the default is 12. And it's by default going to go over all of the data that's loaded. Okay, I actually kind of prefer to look at the volume that's happened in the last year or so when I'm looking at volume by price. So I'm going to change that from all of the data to about 252, which is about a year if I'm looking at a daily, which I am. Okay, so then all I'm going to have it do, 12 is fine. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Okay, and what it's going to plot is volume at different areas over the last 250 days. So if I'm looking at the last year of Tesla, I can tell you right here, this particular area, this particular area, and this particular area is where most of that volume came in. Okay, if we kind of look at where we're at right now, this area, this area, this area is probably where those three areas are where the second amount, most of the volume came in. And here we didn't have a lot of volume. Here we didn't have a lot of volume, and we had a little bit of trading up here. Okay, now it's color coded. So if I look right here, if it's bullish, if the stock that we're looking at closed higher than the previous day, that's considered a positive volume day. And if it closed lower than it did the previous day, that's considered a negative volume day. So these areas, it sums up the entire amount of the volume, and that would be kind of the whole extent of this bar. But then also it'll tell you how many of those were up days and how many of those are down days. So if I'm looking at Tesla, the way people use volume at price, and this is not a volume by price class by any means, nor would I consider myself a volume by price expert. But people will use this to identify where areas of big support and resistance are. I just did a training class with Vince Vora, and what he said, it kind of made a lot of sense. Trading creates support and resistance. Because if we had a lot of people that are buying right here in this area, and now the price is lower, they're going to be looking to kind of maybe get out of their position when it's at a break even. Okay, or if they're selling at this area, they might be looking for it to go back to that price. So those areas where a lot of volume happen is a good area to look for in terms of support and resistance. So I'm not, but if I was kind of looking to maybe place a bullish position on Tesla, I'm definitely not. Okay, but if I was looking to be in a position and I wanted to kind of identify where we might run into resistance, well, where I might say that we're going to start running into resistance is right about here, right about here. Okay, and that's how people use it. Okay, they look at where the trading happens. The trading creates friction. the trading creates noise. So there you go. All right, volume by price. Now, a couple things, a couple things. I'm gonna go ahead and delete these horizontal lines. Yeah, I can put this over here if I want. If I just drag it over to the other side, I can kind of put it on the other side of the chart. I can go in. I don't like it to be quite as I like it to be a little bit more opaque when I'm using it. And of course, you can kind of adjust the opacity to it. You can kind of make it a little bit lighter. You can make it so you can see the chart. And to do that, just like we showed you before, just double click on it. That'll pull up the dialog box and go and set it to whatever color and whatever opacity that you want. So there you go. All right, that's volume by price. Okay. Now, if you want to use it in your trading, I'd recommend you go watch a video on it. There's some that was done by John Slauson that talk a little bit about it, and or you could kind of Google it and that kind of stuff, because that's just kind of like the 50,000 foot view. Okay. All right. Also, they do have kind of the tooltips. So if you hover over them, it'll tell you exactly what the positive volume is, what the actual range of that volume bar is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you use the daily and you use the bars in a year, each bar represents a month. No, actually, let me kind of, it represents a price zone. So, let me illustrate what I mean. So not a month, but actually a zone of price. So let me go back in and do 12, and we'll do user defined. Okay, and so out of all of the trading that's happened, it's going to break that into 12 zones. So your first zone would be from here to here. And if I hover over it, this lowest price zone would be 153.75 would be the lower boundary, and 165.38 would be the upper boundary. Okay, this would be the second zone, and the price would be from 165. So it breaks up all of the trading that's happened into ranges or zones. Hopefully that is more clear. Thanks for that, though. It allowed for clarifying questions. Are always helpful. All right. And then you get the zone. There's a number of zones that's actually dictated, the range of the zone, and how much positive and how much negative and how much total volume. So it breaks it up. Okay, perfect. All right. Okay. They did add a couple of different charting styles. You have range bars and range candles. They are very similar in nature, kind of how, and this was by popular demand. We had a lot of things just because you guys asked for them. So if you want stuff, ask for it. There's a good chance you're going to get it. But now if you want to do a range bar or a range candle, it's a charting style in MetaStock. There's a couple of different ways you can kind of actually do that. By default, it's going to set the range as 14 periods ATR, the ATR of 14 periods, but you can also define it by points as well. And basically what that does is it's a lot like point and figure, where it'll start a new bar when the price has exceeded a specific range. So that's why time, it's one of those charting styles where time is not part of the equation. It just looks at where the trading happens. Okay. And you can set that again as ATR, or you can set it based on a range of prices as well. So this is one that's a lot of people have been asking for a really long time. And I think it's actually best to demonstrate this on either a multiple time frame chart or a multiple layout chart. And this is the global cursor. And so I'm going to go ahead and kind of go in here. I'm going to change using my little drop down to the Ichimoku broad market layout that we just made. And I'm just going to kind of give you an idea of how broad market works, or how global cursor works. This is a setting, a lot of people have looked at this, and they've wanted to be able to see where they're at on different charts. This is particularly useful if you're looking at like a daily, a weekly, a monthly, or a yearly. If you do multiple time frame analysis, you can kind of figure out where, in fact, maybe, we'll just stay with this. We can figure out exactly where a certain specific time is and where that interfaces along the time, different time frames. So, but if I'm looking at this particular chart and I just open up my crosshairs right here, what you're going to notice is that the crosshairs are going to cover all of the charts. So even though I'm pointing at the Dow right here, if that value exists in terms of date on the Qs, you'll be able to see the global crosshairs. So right now I'm pointing at 379. It's showing me where 379 is on the Qs. Since we don't have a 379 that's visible on the spiders, you don't see that particular part of it. But if it did exist, you'd see it there too. Okay. If we start to point at the S&P 500, it's also going to kind of give us a very similar view. And it allows us to say, okay, well, right now we started to pull back on the Dow. Let's just kind of point at the Dow real quick here. Right here, and at that same time, the S&P also started to pull down. The Qs were kind of a little bit stable, but it allows you to kind of see where things exist in different, at the same time, on different charts. Okay, this does go across all of your layouts. So if I've got a layout open over here, and a layout open over here, and a layout open over here, I can point at any spot on that chart and see on all of my open charts where that exists. So. Hey, Scott, it's good to see you. I thought particularly that you might like the themes. 19. So I like 19 too. I think it's a really, really cool upgrade. If you haven't got it yet, you should. But I particularly, when we were starting to test themes, thought about you, Scott. All right, since you're the one of the people that was asking for it. You can turn that off if you want to. If you just want to be able to see them on one chart and not see them on all the charts, you can. But a lot of people have asked for that for a long time. So, and that's just showing it. Okay, this is something that we'll do scans all the time. And people will be like, what chart are you looking at? And now there's a global curve. There's a little bit of a watermark. So anytime you're looking at a chart, it's been on for all of my charts. But it particularly is helpful for me because I don't get the question about what are you looking at? It's much more obvious. Now, if you're trading something and you're looking at a chart, what am I looking at? You don't have to go try and kind of read it in like really small font. It's just right there on the chart. You can see it, and it's just helpful. So I really like the watermark. You can turn it off if you don't like it, but there you go. So I'm going to kind of go through another list of features. I won't kind of necessarily show these unless there's something I particularly want to talk about. Learn as you plot allows you to go back to a part of the chart that's in the past. And if you hit Control and arrow on your keyboard, you can move forward one bar. And if you do any like type of simulated trading where you kind of just want to say, well, okay, what would I do in that scenario and what's the outcome? That's called Learn as you plot. And it hasn't been available in MetaStock for a while. It's now there. And all you have to do is just kind of center the chart where you want it, and then just control and use like the arrow on your keyboard, and it'll move one day at a time. So something that a lot of people have looked at there. We reworked the probability cones again, just to show you a little bit more precision in terms of where the cones were. We did put a transparency in 18 with the new chart engine. Now, if you set that, it's going to remember that value unless you go change it again. So just some memory, just to make things a little bit easier. You can, actually, this is something that Barbara Starr, one of our, a friend of mine, somebody that does a lot of reviews of MetaStock products, didn't want him. You can have in access on both sides now if you want. So a lot of people want to be able to see what the price is on both sides. You couldn't do that. We added it back because they're like, why can't I do this? So, and again, if you want something in MetaStock, ask for it. There's a good, we listen. Let's see, there you have the ability to change the font size on the axes if you want to. You can make them bigger. We changed the text editor size. So these are some things that I would always kind of promote as like the biggest things that I liked in MetaStock 18, the ability to kind of have these drawing tools that would measure percent change or points change. And we actually broke them out into their own drawing tools. So now if we come in here, and this was actually just because people wanted to be able to also have a trend line, but also just a measurement tool. And we got a lot of people asking, how do I measure how many points or how many periods this move is? And so right now, if you come over here, there's a points measurement tool and a percent one. I'm going to go ahead and do the percent one. And if I just draw the trend line, by default, it's going to go ahead and actually kind of show me the percent. And I still have the other trend line. I can actually just draw a line if I want to. But here I can actually come in here and know that the move from this October to this to just recently, before we started to kind of dip back into the cloud on the S&P, that was an increase of about 25%. Now, since these are their own drawing tools, I can kind of go in and change the defaults. I can make them bigger. So if I wanted to do that and just kind of illustrate that real quick, let me go to the measure percent tool here. Oh, I meant to go into properties. Okay, measure percent properties. If I come in here and say, well, I'm still blind, let's make those a little bit bigger. I'm gonna go ahead and apply. Now I can see that a little bit better. I can save that as a default. So, and you can have a different default for your points, different default for your percent, and still have a trend line that has its own defaults as well. So it's a tool that was available, but it has a little bit more functionality, and it's a little bit more findable now. So some other new drawing tools that are available would be there's a lot of new Elliott wave drawing tools, head and shoulders, and even an XABCD. And they all pretty much function the same way. I'm going to go ahead and draw it to show you kind of how the head and shoulders works, but they all work very, very much the same. And they all work in a fairly intuitive way. So if I was kind of looking at this Dow chart, let's find the head and shoulders one. This is the XABCD. This is the head and shoulders pattern. And I don't know if I have a head and shoulders to draw here, but let's pretend we're going to do the left shoulder here. I'm just going to fake it because it's not really one. But okay, let's say we had a head up here, and now we're kind of looking for a right shoulder. You just draw it. It's pretty easy to kind of draw, and it labels it, it identifies it. And of course, you can go change it. With the Elliott wave tools, you can go and say, I want them in parentheses so that you can draw all the different lines that you want. But they just added a lot of tools that are helpful for you if you want to do Elliott waves or the Gartley waves, also known as the XABCD pattern, or the head and shoulders, whatever you want. So there you go. Let's see. In addition to that, and I think we are kind of getting to the point where we're kind of almost done. So if you have more questions, we'll stay here as long as we need to. But we also added a couple of really cool add-ons that are in the MetaStock program. One of those is the ETS that was initially created by Michael Murmer, and a very, very popular add-on. We've now included it in MetaStock. It's a trend following system. It was an add-on that sold for maybe like $300. Very, very popular. A lot of people really liked it. It has its ETS trend watch. It has a moving average, some scans. We have a lot of training on how to use this on our YouTube channel, and we'll be creating more training. But I just want to kind of give you an idea of what's in here. So here you get the buy and the sell signal. You get trend identification. You get the trend watch indicator that Michael had developed. Scanning, system testing, all that kind of stuff. So basically, very, very simple system, very straightforward, just helps you identify trends and stay on the right side of it. The trend's your friend kind of stuff. And very cool system. Give it a go. It includes stop losses, system tests, scans, expert advisors, literally a full-blown add-on that you can kind of use. It's just included with MetaStock now. Okay. We did go in and we created some new templates with Rahul Mohindar. I called up Rahul and I was like, what can we do to kind of, RMO is a system that I like a lot. It's the first system that I actually traded with. I've done probably a few thousand demos on like, here's how you identify the long-term trend and the short-term trend and that kind of stuff. And RMO's great. I can talk about it for an hour. I'm not going to, just to kind of keep this thing on the most, but we sat down with Rahul and I said, hey, there's a new charting engine in MetaStock, and I would like to see some changes to kind of the way the RMO is displayed, and kind of just mocked up an example. I said, hey, what do you think about that? And it was kind of funny because it kind of got him thinking, and he's like, well, maybe we should do some stuff that's actually kind of a little bit different. We haven't changed the RMO for a while. So he came up with some different views that you can look at them, and I'm going to kind of just show them to you as we go through. I would recommend, if you're looking for a system that's really good at trend following, RMO is great. And so we came up with a shaded model. The reason I like the shaded model more than the histogram model has to do with kind of the relationship here between swing trade 2 and swing trade number 3. I just think this is, not only does it look better, it's a little bit easier for me to read. One of the things that's important about this, without kind of going into the module, is where the, I don't know, the swing trade number 2, this pink line crosses up above swing trade number 3. That's a kind of like a change of direction or a change of force, and it gives you a buy signal. But I think it's a lot easier to spot when that happens when it's not a histogram, when it's a shaded line, because you can see kind of the shading and exactly where it happens. So this was probably, of the templates that we came up with, this is closest to the example that I showed Rahul and said, hey, we should do this, because it just makes it a little bit easier to do your analysis. But then he kind of took it a little bit of a step further. He made a template that's called the bull pulse. And what it tells you is when that bull arrow happens, if you're short-term positive, it's going to have a blue bar. If you're long-term bullish, it's going to have like a green bar. So I kind of made kind of a really cool pulse view for it. There's also a bear pulse where it shows you like if you're bearish long-term, if you're bearish short-term, and if you have that change of direction. And so it kind of helps you put everything together. He put both of those together, but my favorite view is what he calls pro mode. And with that, you get the little spikes where the entries happen. And then when both your long-term and short-term trades actually line up, you'll get kind of just this bullish filled in area where it kind of tells you everything's clear to go. So this is my new favorite mode. It's not what I showed him, but it's what he came up with. And I would recommend that if you haven't looked at RMO, it's a great system. If you're on the YouTube channel, just search for RMO. There's going to be like several hundred videos that come up that you can actually go through. And there you go. We did put, this is something that a lot of people were asking for, and Kelly made this, if you're familiar with Kelly, but we made a gap identification system. So if you want to find stocks that have gapped up or down, there's a gap identification system. I like to call it, this hasn't caught on around the office, but I like to call it GIDS. So anyway, you can run a little bit of a scan. It'll tell you if there's a gap up or a gap down. It'll tell you if it gapped up on higher than average volume or lower than average volume. And then there's even a little bit of an expert advisor that kind of talks a little bit about gaps and how people use it and all that kind of stuff. So there you go, the GID system. So, and this is one that I've been kind of showing. It's called the Ichimoku Master. I kind of showed it. This is one of the ones, like when I started at MetaStock, which was like 27 years ago, there's an exploration, there's an expert that I love, that I just kind of, I opened it up and I attached it to the chart, and I absolutely fell in love with it because it perfectly illustrated kind of how good of an educational tool MetaStock can be, right? And the expert was actually the Candlesticks one. And I still love that thing. Like, I'll still show it. If I'm demoing MetaStock to somebody that's new to MetaStock, I'm like, look, here it is. It's going to identify on the chart exactly where all of your bullish engulfings are and all your bearish engulfings are. And I can open up an expert commentary and it can kind of explain it to you and tell you exactly, okay, a bullish engulfing means that you had a bullish bar that was totally engulfing, and that's a bullish signal if you're in an uptrend, and that appears to be the case. And when I read that, it's been a long time, but I was like, well, this is really designed to help people understand what something's doing, right? And that's the case with the MACD expert advisor. It's the case with the stochastic. They're very, very helpful in helping you just understand what's going on the chart. And so as we were kind of getting ready for 19, Robert Dedman, who wrote all the performance systems and wrote a really good guide to the Ichimoku and kind of how it works. And I've seen a lot of courses that are out there that charge several $1,000s that just show you what the Ichimoku is, or like they run the thing like that. But when I knew that this would fit well into MetaStock because it's designed to kind of help you not only understand what Ichimoku is, break down what's happening on the chart, but also, a lot of people want to be able to find the Ichimoku crosses of the cloud, or they want to be able to find the classic buy and sell signals. So we worked out a deal with Robert. I called him up. I said, hey, Robert, I really want to include this in MetaStock. How can we make it happen? And so we now include the Ichimoku Master in MetaStock. And I'm not going to kind of go into huge amounts of detail about what that is right now, because I'm going to kind of get a different class ready for it. But I just want to kind of give you an idea of what it is. And it is something that I think fits really well into kind of that, helps you understand kind of tool that MetaStock is. So with Ichimoku, there's a lot of different orientations that you need to be aware of. There's a couple of different buy signals, like if it crosses up above the Kumo or the cloud, that's something that's important. If your Tenkan-san is above your Shinkan-span, that's bullish. In fact, there's a lot of different things that you can kind of pay attention to that that go into kind of this chart view. How much of this do I have? By the way, the Ichimoku was put together by Goicho Hasada, who also went by Ichimoku Sanjin, which is what a man in the mountain sees. But there's a lot of things that you can kind of keep track of. There's quite a few different indicators, like the Tenkan-san and the Kiju-san, and there's a lot of different interpretations. Certainly, it's a fairly well-crafted system that's designed to help you understand trend bias. The relationship of price to the Kumo or the cloud is important. It's important to understand that the Kumo acts as support and resistance. The Kumo direction is very important, both right now and how the cloud goes into the future. The Senko span, and its relationship, the Chiku span. All the indicators kind of help you understand kind of the price. And so if I'm looking at a chart, and there's a lot of different things that I need to kind of be aware of to kind of understand what this looks like in relationship to Ichimoku. And it's not very complicated, especially as you kind of get to know it. Okay, so let me kind of just show you the expert advisor real quick, because I like how Robert in particular put this together and how he kind of put this all around. Let me go back to the main layout here. We've got a chart of Tesla open, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to jump over to GE real quick. Hope you don't mind. There we go. That didn't take very long. And I'm going to apply that Ichimoku template, which I think did I just make it? No, that's JB. Oh, I didn't make it. Okay. So I'm going to apply the template. And I said to be very careful if I talked about different templates I'm applying. This one is called, actually, this is not the same one I applied before, but it's called the Ichimoku Master, I believe. Yeah, this one's just Ichimoku. There's another one that's more advanced. We have a training video on how to use it. I'm going to apply this to the chart. And it's going to kind of go in, and it's going to tell me if we're above the cloud, that's bullish. Okay, so right now it's going to tell us that price is above the cloud, and it has been on GE for a while. GE still even today had a pretty bullish bar, but it might be running out of momentum. But we're not talking about GE. We're talking about Ichimoku. So one of the main signals is when it crosses up above the cloud, and you can see where that's drawn on the chart. But there's all these relationships that you also want to pay attention to. So I'm going to go ahead and just open up the commentary. I'm going to fly out the commentary window. I'm going to go ahead and pin it over here and just kind of show you how Robert wrote this, because why I really, really like it. So of the orientations and the different interpretations, the TK cross is bullish, but it's a weak TK cross. The TK cross is the Tenkan-san, which is this indicator here, and the Kiju-san, which is this indicator here. When they cross, that's bullish. If the Tenkan-san goes up above the Kiju-san, it's bullish anyway. This occurred 107 days ago. The price to Kumo relationship is bullish. The current Kumo direction, where it's actually headed right now, is bullish. Where it's headed in the future is bullish. The Chiku span relationship to the Kumo is bullish. The Chiku span relationship to price is bullish. And the period since or until, whichever happens first, or closest to price right now, is bullish, and it happened 78 periods ago. So it breaks down kind of like all those things that we need to be paying attention to, and just tells us the relationship to it. But if I'm learning about the Ichimoku Kinko Hui indicator, it actually also breaks down each of those conditions for me. So if I want to know the TK signal, I can come down here. I'm not going to read this out loud. because it's been long already and I'm starting to lose my voice. But this black part right here actually tells me what this is in general. Okay, what are we looking at when we're looking at the TK signal? Okay, so I can kind of learn this to kind of get a good overview of what it is. And then if I read the blue part, it's going to tell me how it relates to GE right now. Okay, and then whether we're close above or in or below the Kumo is really important. The black part is going to tell me what that is in general, and the blue part is going to tell me how that relates to price. It's going to tell us the most current Kumo direction, which for GE is going up. The black part is going to be the part that tells me about it. I think you get the idea. Okay, so very cool. It's just included with 19. And I would encourage you to look at it. It is a full add-on. It was very, very popular. It's not, but it helps you kind of understand everything. Has the expert advisor that I just showed you. The main signals are the TK cross and the cross of the price in the cloud, or the price in the Kumo. And those you can scan with. It has its own exploration that allows you to scan for the signals. You can go in and say, okay, well, it does include system tests. You can go in and say, well, if I traded based on the current cloud with loose stops, how would that work? And if I took all the signals and I took medium stops, how does that work? It's all really, really, really well spelled together or put together for you. So that's just something that's included, which is, and I'd encourage you to play with it. 19 is such a great upgrade. So another thing that we've included, Jake is actually going to do a training class completely on JBXC. Jake and Brian and me tomorrow, same time, 6 p.m. So I'll see you again tomorrow night if you want to come. I would recommend it. JBXC is such a very cool indicator. It helps you understand range, where you're at in both your long-term trend and your short-term trend, whether range is expanding, whether it's contracting. There's a lot of uses for JBXC, and we're going to spend an hour on it tomorrow. So come back tomorrow for that. There is a free template that includes this Jake Bernstein's JBXC expansion contraction indicator. So there you go. All right. There we go. That's kind of a lot, right? With the MetaStock 19, we were kind of going through it. One of the things we do before we release an upgrade is we train everybody on how to do it. And of course, like most of the company gets involved in system testing. And literally, like we kind of keep notes of everything that's changed, everything that's improved. And I am not kidding when I say that the amount of pages, just of the this was done, or this was done, and this was done, and this was done. It was 6 pages long. Just the changes, just the things that have been added with 19. So you've got the new charting workflows, you've got the new layouts, you've got the new theming, you've got the support for multiple monitors. The whole container looks so much crisper and nicer, and everything's been redone and redrawn. You get the new charting styles, the new drawing tools, the trading systems, the Ichimoku, everything, like so much different value just packed into this upgrade. I said this about 18, because 18 was such a huge upgrade, like the whole charting engine changed, right? I think this is even bigger than 18th with all of the changes and all of the things that have been added. So we did, or actually I say we, when I say we, Kelly sat down in the studio and Greg went through all the videos, but he recorded all the Unleash the Power of MetaStock, the starting with MetaStock, the power tools, how to filter, how to backtest, all of that kind of stuff has been redone, reworked, and it's included with the upgrades and the new purchases. So if you're interested in this upgrade, thank you. If you're using MetaStock, you should get this. I absolutely think it's fine. Well, I said this for 18 too, but I love kind of the, all of the changes and the pace of changes. And if you've been a MetaStock customer for a while, thank you. We do appreciate that. But I think you've probably noticed an increase.
Hey, Jeff.
Like the quality of changes that have made. Yes,
Jeff. I'm sorry to bother you. Kelly did the same thing, and I tried to correct it. The bottom link that says metastock.com/M424 is incorrect.
Let's fix that for you.
It should be ME424, and I yeah, because we want people to actually be able to purchase it if they wanted to. That is correct. Thank
you. All right, cool. All right. So if you want to get some more information on it, or if you want to order it through one of our sales guys, 800-882-3040. If you're international, 801-506-0900. MetaStock.com/sales chat. MetaStock.com/P424 if you're brand new to MetaStock, or MetaStock.com/ME424. Marina's asks, is there any AI involved? I think AI over the last, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant, but you started it, Marinus. I think AI lost a little bit of its meaning. Let me explain what I mean. Before, the way that I always kind of understood AI is like when you're talking about backtesting systems, and with a backtesting, when you do AI backtesting, what you do is, instead of a brute force where, like, let's say you're optimizing variables. I told you I'm going to get off on a rant for you for a minute. You might, let's say you're testing a moving average values, and you start at 5, and then maybe do 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, and do all of these variables. It's called brute force system testing. And it's something that you can do in MetaStock, right? But there's also an algorithmic AI side of system testing where it's just a genetics model based. And that's kind of, when I hear about AI, that's what I think about, because that's, and you can do that in MetaStock. There's an add-on that we created with Nirvana. Ed Downs made it. It's called Fulgent AI, and it's awesome. It's, as I see it, strict AI. Now, I think a lot of people have come out lately and they say, well, here's my moving average system, and it's AI because it's an algorithm, right? And there's tons of algorithms like that in MetaStock, but I don't think, in my opinion, that that's actually kind of AI in the way that I envision it. But a lot of people call it that. So anyway, there's a lot of methodologies that are artificial intelligence that are built into MetaStock that are just basically part of it. And then if you want an actual AI system, Ed Downs built a really, really cool one that's called Fulgent AI, and you can take a look at that. So I do think that a lot of people are just like, yeah, my methodology is now AI. And in some ways, maybe it is an AI because it's an artificial algorithm, but it's still just like really an expert, right, or a system. And there's tons of those in MetaStock, hundreds. But sorry about the rant. There are, if you do want to see kind of true AI backtesting, Fulgent AI is a really good one you could look at. So if you haven't looked at the upgrade, give us a call, 800-882-3040, metastock.com/sales chat, metastock.com/P424. If you're new to MetaStock and you want to do a trial offer, I believe that's an extended trial, and then ME424. And that is the correct link. So I do want to say thank you for, if you've been using MetaStock for a while, I really appreciate that. Thanks for coming to the video. I hope it was helpful for you. Thanks for all the questions. Appreciate those as well. So there you go. All right. I'll see you at the next one.
Hi, Kelly Clement here from MetaStock. Before you go, I have 2 quick things for you. 1, thanks for joining us today. We love having you here at our webinars and viewing our videos. So what I'd like to invite you to do before you go is like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps us a great deal, and it helps us bring you more awesome content like today's video. The second thing is we have a great ebook on trading that you can get for free. If you go to metastock.com/YouTubebook, you can get a free copy of The Secrets of Successful Traders. It's a great book with lots of content from traders just like yourself who can teach you some of the secrets that they have learned. Thanks for taking a second with me and learning about those 2 things. Thanks for joining us, and keep on trading.